There's no question Miami got themselves a really, really good one. Where does Damien Martinez rank among the other top running backs in the country?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Plenty of transfer additions to talk about for this Miami Hurricanes team, and the headline maker over this past week has been former first-team All-Pac-12 running back Damien Martinez, who made the move from Oregon State to the University of Miami. Really happy to bring back on Max Chadwick from Pro Football Focus, who's really become a show favorite here. Max, how are you?
I don't know about show favorite, Alex, but I appreciate you having me on again, man. And I was telling you before, it's great that draft season. The draft's the best time of the year. It's my favorite. It's like a national holiday to me. It's my favorite time of the year. But now that the draft's over, finally, you can get back to being a college football analyst. I could talk about college football again. So I'm it's kind of a happy new year for me. It feels like.
Well, happy New Year to you and everybody out there. And so, okay, Martinez, he comes over to Miami after putting up 1,185 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, 9 rushing touchdowns last season at Oregon State. I'm sure you can talk a little bit about, the differences in the team he's going to be playing with now and teaming up with Cam Ward. But what kind of an impact do you think Damien Martinez, I should say, can have this year at Miami?
A huge one. It's pretty wild because, I was actually on PFF's Day 3 NFL Draft Show when this news broke, and it took everything out of me not to derail the show and be like, oh my God, we got to talk about this, because everyone there obviously wanted to hear about the Day 3 prospects that are getting picked, and I was freaking out over Damien Martinez going to Miami because it was a massive news. I think Martinez is, to me, I ranked him as the number 10 running back in the country heading into next year. I think he was clearly the best player in the spring transfer portal that we got. And Miami got a huge addition with him. And I think it's massive because Cam Ward is kind of a roller coaster at quarterback, to put it lightly. He makes some unbelievable throws, but also some head-scratching ones. So it was a little worrisome when you're saying, okay, Cam Ward's going to have to carry that offense next year. Now you got Damien Martinez running behind a pretty good offensive line, I think, as well. I'm excited about him being able to take some of the pressure off of Cam Ward's shoulders. I think he's really good after contact. He's an explosive running back as well. Obviously, there's some question marks about him running behind maybe a little bit of a worse offensive line because obviously Oregon State's offensive line last year, headlined by Talisa Falongo, who was a top 15 pick in the draft, was the best run-blocking offensive line in the country. But I still think Damien Martinez is a top 10 back in the country just for how great he's been in his first 2 years of college football.
Yeah, no, it's good. And so I kind of look at Martinez, Jaden Ott, that a lot of ACC fans may not be familiar because he's coming in with Cal, and Amari and Hampton, who ACC fans are very familiar with. Is that probably the best trio of running backs in the conference now?
Oh, yeah, I would probably say those three. I mean, all three of them were in my top 10 running backs in the country heading into next year. I had Jaden Ott number 4 overall. Like I said, I had Martinez number 10 overall, then I had Marion Hampton at number 3 overall. And funny enough, you say that ACC fans are very aware of him because we actually interviewed Mac Brown a couple months ago. We talked about Marion Hampton a little bit, and he was saying how, man, our defensive backs in practice absolutely hate tackling Marion Hampton. I was like, Coach, I think everyone in the ACC also feels the same way. He's like, yeah, I think you're right. So, Marion Hampton, I would say is the best running back in the ACC right now, with Jay not being a close second. And then I think Tim Martinez is probably third now in that conference as well. So really good running back conference. And honestly, really good running back year in college football. That is one of the most loaded positions, I think, in college football heading into next year, which makes sense considering how kind of down this year's running back class was in the NFL draft. Next year's running back class, I think, could be one of the most star-studded ones we've seen in recent memory.
We're joined here by Max Chadwick. He's a PFF College Football analyst and co-host of the PFF College Football Show. Does an awesome job. And I want to go back to something you were saying about, how adding Damien Martinez, it's going to take a little less pressure off Cam Ward to carry the entire offense. Making a move like this, and we're also going to talk in a little bit about Sam Brown, who Miami added at receiver, but making a move like Damien Martinez, should Miami Hurricanes fans, should that maybe add perhaps an extra win to the win total coming this year? Like, how much of an impact do you think this can have?
It's going to have a huge impact. In the NFL, obviously, as a guy with PFF, running backs aren't as valuable in the NFL. They are still incredibly valuable in college football. So David Martinez, I think having him is a massive, massive get for Miami. And yeah, I mean, listen, if Cam Ward, I said before how he's one of the biggest boomer bust quarterbacks in college football. If he's having a bust week and he's not having a great week, it's good that you can have a top 10 running back in the country to rely on in Damien Martinez to kind of alleviate that. So that is huge because when and if Cam Ward has his down weeks, I think it's going to be huge to have a superstar running back like Damien Martinez to kind of carry the offense. That way you're not having Cam Ward have to, dig Miami out of the hole. So I think that's really valuable because, like I said, Cam Ward's one of those guys that I like. I don't love. I could see the upside with him. I see the talent with him, and I see why people are projecting him as a projected maybe potential first-round pick. I'm not there yet just because of how raw he is and how careless with the football he is at times. But I see the upside, of course. But it is very huge for him to have a damn good running back to rely on in David Martinez if it's just not his day, honestly. I think that's a big thing for Miami.
I will say that even though Max is a little bit skeptical on Cam Ward, the reason why I call you a show favorite is to go through that. For those watching the video, you can see he's got a U helmet, which I appreciate. I appreciate the improvisation because I'm assuming that's not a permanent fixture in your background for the various shows you do. So I appreciate the love and I appreciate the improvisation there.
So we actually upstairs, this is the PFF office I'm in right now. Upstairs we're missing like 7 or 8, I think, total. We have every Power 5 helmet. So we have literally every single one of those. I was like, dude, if we're going to have all these just in the office all over the place, if every one of these hits I do, I'm going to break out one of the helmets and put it behind me. Yeah. So, yeah, of course, I had to get the Miami helmet for you, Alex.
I appreciate that touch, Max. And so, okay, last thing on Martinez before we move on to Sam Brown. You talk about really deep running back class coming up for next year, NFL draft, we're talking 2025, but considering him a top 10 prospect. But if it is such a deep running back class and knowing that running backs do get a little bit devalued in the National Football League, like what potential round could we be talking about for a guy like him to be drafted in next year?
Oh, man. So talent-wise, he's probably day 2, maybe 4th round pick, talent-wise. Problem is, though, you're looking at next year's draft, he could be going lower just because of how many running backs there are that are really good. I mean, you got Ollie Gordon, the Rain Doak Walker Award winner, Quinshad Judkins, Amarion Hampton, Jaden Ott, Taj Brooks went back to school from Texas Tech, Travion Henderson went back to Ohio State, Devin Neal from Kansas, Ashton Ginty from Boise State, RJ Harvey from UCF, Martinez, Donovan Edwards. Like, there are so many guys that are just like, oh my gosh, like this running back class is unbelievable. So he's got the talent to be a 3rd round pick, I think. But the problem with next year's class is that it's so good that there's just so many guys that he can get kind of lost in the shuffle. And there's going to be teams that are like, hey, listen, we don't need to get our running back in the 3rd round because there's still 8 guys that we like in the 4th round. So, like, he could be pushed down a little bit from there. I don't think he's one of the top running backs in the draft as of right now. I think there's some other guys that I put ahead of him, like Judkins and Ollie Gordon and Amarion Hampton. I think all 3 of those guys, even Ashton Ginty from Boise State, I think is special too. Maybe all 4 of those guys would have been RB1 this year, which shows how ridiculous this class is. So that could hurt him a little bit. But talent-wise, I could see Martinez being a guy that maybe a team prefers in the 3rd, 4th round. Just depends on how he does now in the ACC and running behind, like I said, a little bit of a worse offensive line. I still like Miami's offensive line, but a little bit of a worse one than what he had at Oregon State. That's going to be a little interesting to see what he can do too.
Really good stuff here from Max Chadwick from PFF. We're going to talk about Miami's addition of Sam Brown at wide receiver and about why it was a bit of a disappointing draft for the U. So you want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. We're having such a great time, guys. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We're also brought to you by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. Got to pause here to talk more about this amazing app. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in Monopoly Go. You can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, like cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults, unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete big albums for prizes. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Another offensive addition that Miami made was wide receiver Samuel Brown from Houston. He does have the previous history with offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson, which I think is going to help the transition be pretty smooth for him. What kind of an impact can a guy like Sam Brown have with Cam Ward in Miami?
A good one, honestly. He's a taller receiver at 6'2", 195 pounds, though, so he's got to put on a little bit of weight, I think. But really good after the catch this past year, averaged about 7 yards after the catch per reception, so that's pretty good. Wasn't really utilized that much at Houston. He had 800 yards this past season, so he was still one of the top receivers. But I think he's good. I think he's a good player. I think he's can work on his separation ability a little bit, but he does a pretty good job finding holes in zone coverage, I think. Samuel Brown's a guy I liked a lot, and I think he's an underrated get for Miami in the transfer portal, and he certainly was one of Houston's top receivers this past year, so putting up 800 yards. So, I think he's a guy that could definitely contribute and be one of the top weapons for Cam Ward. Obviously, I think Xavier Strepo, we could all agree, is going to be the top weapon, as maybe the best or one of the best slot receivers in the country, and in my opinion, one of the 5 best receivers in the country, regardless of slot or outside. But I think Samuel Brown would be another guy that could maybe work a little bit on the outside and contribute a lot for Miami this year.
Max, Miami, and this goes long before Mario Cristobal got here. For a long time, Miami has just had, I know they're not the only school, there's a handful of them out there where players will leave early for the NFL draft and then go undrafted or be late round picks. And it's like, I wish that we could change that culture here. Leonard Taylor was one of those, had another season of eligibility. He leaves early. He goes undrafted. I was a little surprised that Javion Cohen, the offensive lineman, went undrafted, but it's like, is that more of a Miami issue than some other places? It's definitely something I'm hoping they can fix here.
Yeah. Good question. I do think some kids get some bad info and declare earlier than they should. Leonard Taylor was weird because if I was a player, it depends. I'm not even going to try to discuss financial situations because every player is different, obviously. So he might have needed to get out earlier. So I'm not going to blame it. I never blame a player at all for leaving early. Like, no matter where I think they're going to pick, like, it makes sense. But he was a little interesting because I thought he was going to be a 4th round pick, and I would have taken him 4th round, top 125 easily, because I loved his tape over the past couple of years. I think he's kind of played a little bit out of position this year at Miami. They kind of use him a lot as a nose tackle, and I don't really think that's what he does well. But he's got pop as a pass rusher, man, and he really does play really, really well as a pass rusher. In fact, I think the only D tackles in the country over the last 2 years with better pass rushing grade than Leonard Taylor were Johnny Newton, who won the 2nd round, and I think Byron Murphy was the other one who won in the 1st round. So Leonard Taylor's got some serious tools as a pass rusher, above average athlete as well. I like him a lot, honestly, and I think I would have taken him in the 4th round easily. And the fact that he went undrafted is crazy to me. I love where he signed in New York to the Jets. Playing alongside Quinnen Williams and learning from Quinnen Williams is a very good thing. And I would not be surprised if we look back and see Leonard Taylor on the Jets and be a starting D tackle for them down the line. Like, wow, how the heck did that go? Did that guy go undrafted? I thought Leonard Taylor was by far the best undrafted free agent. But to answer your question, I think you see a lot of guys go undrafted that maybe weren't expecting it. Miami, of course, had a couple more than usual, but I don't really think it's just a Miami problem. I think a lot of schools have that problem where guys just want to get to the league as quickly as possible, no matter where they're going to get picked. And I wish, as a college football fan, I wish they would come back to school as well, so we could see better players in college football. But I don't think it's just a Miami problem. I think it's and I wouldn't really. The Leonard Taylor one didn't make any sense to me because I thought he was going to be a 4th rounder. Javion Cohen maybe a little bit more, could have gone back to school, but Taylor, I think, him declaring for the draft was not a wrong call by any means. I thought he was going to be a 4th round pick.
Well, really good stuff here as always. You guys want to follow Max on X at Max Chadwick CFB, Pro Football Focus college football analyst and co-host of the PFF College Football Show. Max, thank you for the time as always. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Alex.
Well, a huge thank you there to Max Chadwick for bringing the knowledge, and big thanks and shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch each and every day. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel. If you listen to the audio version, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And we will talk to you guys again next time. Again, we're monitoring the transfer portal. Simeon Barrow is going to be making up his mind. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later on today. And the other targets Miami is still pursuing. I think defense, 2 or 3 more defensive players is going to be Miami's focus to close out this transfer portal. We will talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.